Hi there, Andy Bell from Andy Bell Photography here. Now in our last few videos we've been looking at this picture. We developed it in Luminar 4.2 and then we denoised it in Topaz Denoise AI. The final stage before it's ready to go is to give it some sharpening. It's fairly sharp already, but there's one stage that you need to do with every picture, is to just give it that final little zip, that is sharpening, just make it just have that little bit more punch. And the tool that I'm using is Topaz Sharpen AI. Now for the first part of this video we're going to be looking at just how it works with a good quality image like this one. It's a much bigger program than simply an image sharpener, as we'll look at a couple of other photos later. It can also try to rescue images that have got a bit of motion blur in them because you move the camera, or that are simply out of focus. And we've all had pictures where you think it's great composition, the exposure's perfect, but you moved when you took it. Maybe it was a real challenge to take it, or your technique was off, or perhaps you didn't focus it right, which, well, you shouldn't do that, but sometimes you do. You make a mistake and you look at a picture and you think, I can't use it, and you haven't got another one that is what you want. Well, Topaz Sharpen can help. It's not going to make it as good as if it was perfectly sharp or without any motion, but it can make things better, and that's something. But let's look at what it's best at, and that's just sharpening. So we've got this picture. I've put it into Sharpen AI already, and in Sharpen AI, this is the new version. It's just coming out at the time that this video is released, so this is a late beta version of it. And one of the things that the beta version gives you that the previous version didn't give you is the ability to batch process. We'll look at that when we come to the out of focus pictures, but for the moment we're just working on one picture. And at the moment I've just opened the picture. If we click auto, it analyzes the picture and quickly generates a preview of just the area in this box up here that has been sharpened, and we can scroll across and you can see the sharpening's not severe. It doesn't need to be severe. You should never be severe. If you over sharpen a picture, it begins to look just grotty and grainy. It looks like there's JPEG artifacts all over it, but that's it. It's over sharpening. Let's have a look at another area of the picture, the waves. That's probably got the most detail in them. So now I think it needs to update itself, or make it update itself. This is again working with beta software. It doesn't always do everything you want it to. There doesn't seem to be anything happening there. We've got it going there. As I say, it's beta software. So now we can see the difference in the waves, from very soft to nice and sharp. You see the detail change. And I've not had to do anything. Yes, I've had to force it to redo the preview. As I say, this is a beta version, it's not the final version. Yeah, we got email, go away. So I just look at that and I just think it's just right, because you don't know it's been sharpened until you see what it's like when it wasn't sharpened. That's what you want. It's not discernible. Someone's not going to look at that and say, you've overdone it. They're just going to say, yeah, that's good. Now we can go to manual mode and we can see it's recognized that this is a pretty decent picture anyway, so it hasn't done much. Out of all the settings it could do, it's done about a third. And notice it's got a suppressed noise. That's really, really, really important. Sometimes you work on a picture, you get to the sharpening stage, and then you've got noise to deal with. So you denoise, and then you're not sharp anymore. So so Sharpen AI, it stops that noise creeping back in. Let's see what happens if we go mad with it. We'll whack that up to 100%. Well, it's sharpened it more. I'll be honest, that's not terrible. Let's have a look at the horizon level. Again, it's just have to convince it to redo the preview. That's not bad. So even on 100%, it's not bad. We'll go back down. It was on 36, so we'll go back to 36. Well, we've got 34. It's about the same. It's a little softer. So you can see, even if you push the tool, it's not gonna be looking grotty as it sometimes would with a conventional tool. This is very sophisticated in what it does. The final bit to look at is this suppressing of the noise. So let's go back to an area where it could be noisy, and let's take the noise off, noise suppression off, just see what difference it makes. So in this area there's a little bit of noise, just a little bit, so we'll take that back up to where it was, and now it's lovely and smooth again. It's such an important feature, that, because the sharpening stage is the last thing you want to do to a picture. It's true, if you enlarge this picture you might want to sharpen it again, and if you reduce it in size you probably won't need to, because reducing in size does actually have a slightly sharpening effect anyway. This final slider is add grain. I don't know why you'd want to do that. It doesn't seem to be. So it's added a bit of grain. You can see it in there. Well, I suppose for artistic reasons you might want to do that. Yep, there it is. Well, it's up to you. It's got that ability. I personally wouldn't want to do that. I'd want it nice and smooth, as is here. But there we have it. It's a very, very powerful sharpening program, and in this part of the recording we can see how it works with a good sharp image. It's got two more abilities, stabilize and focus. Let's see what they can do. Now I want to demonstrate what Sharpen AI can do for blurred images. This image, as you can see if you look over at the metadata, was taken with a 200mm lens with a 2x teleconverter. So that's a 400mm lens at a 50th of a second. You haven't got much hope of holding it steady. It's not an image stabilized lens either, and to be honest I wasn't really trying because I was using this as a demonstration. If we just go into a full size preview of the image, well, it's horrible, not usable. So what can Topaz Sharpen AI do here? Well, if we look here, this is the grotty version. I've opened it up already and I've just told it to use its automatic settings, but I've selected stabilized. Now I'm going to drag the before and after slider over so you can see what it can do. See the difference? From being, well, almost useless to far better. Now it's not as sharp as it would be if you actually held the camera steady, if you're on a tripod, and it's unlikely with this degree of motion blur that you'll ever get it perfect. It's software that cannot work miracles, but this is certainly much better. This is a 24 megapixel picture. When it's reduced down perhaps to posting on Instagram or on Facebook or somewhere like that, it'd be usable. You certainly wouldn't want to make a big print with it. As we say, the software can't work miracles. Now we can go into manual mode. You can see again you've got the normal settings that Topaz give you. This is the sharpening or removing the blur setting, and it's just over halfway at the moment, but you've got the noise reduction as well. Again, always important. I'm just going to see what this looks like if we got to about 75. Now because it's got more to do, it takes a little bit longer to work out the preview. I don't know what this will look like. It may look better, it may look worse. It's probably just done too much. You can see there's a bit of blurring. I mean, what it's having to try to do is work out what the image should have looked like and adjust the motion in the pixels into something that's got less motion. So I've gone from 50 to 75 or so, so let's go back to about 63, somewhere in the middle. And this is the way to use tools like this. Start halfway, increase by about 50%, then decrease, increase, decrease until it looks the best you can get it. And that's probably, I would say it probably looked as good as it was going to look on the automatic setting, which again is very, very useful to know. There's a reason for that. This supports batch processing. The problem with batch processing is it tends to be a one-size-fits-all operation. You can't use it that often, but where a tool's automatic settings are close to being optimal, then batch processing suddenly becomes a very, very useful tool, because you can literally open up as many pictures as you want, set it and forget it. And then you just set it off, go and make some tea or coffee, watch some TV, read a newspaper, and just let the computer do its stuff. It's true, when I click start batch processing on this, it'll take some time. It might take several minutes per picture. A lot of that depends on what computer you've got, and with Topaz products it's the graphics card that matters. Now on their website they tell you what graphics cards they support. I'd strongly recommend you get one. Get one of the supported ones. I used to use one that wasn't supported, it was underpowered, and it struggled. It did the job, but it took an awful long time, and sometimes it would crash because the graphics card couldn't handle it. So I upgraded to a much better one. Okay, it cost a little bit, but it was well worth it. And of course it speeds up every other graphics operation that you do as well, so you win all along. Now I've got a second picture. If we go to the second picture, one of these lovely parking notices that spring up all over England, where you agree to pay a phenomenal amount of money for parking on private land. And as you can see, if I zoom in, well, you might be able to read that. Now this is an area where I found software struggles, because these things are relying, when you go back here, it's relying on your brain to know what a brick wall looks like. So when it does the sharpening, your brain knows what a brick wall looks like, and it's fooling it a little bit, because it's got it close enough to a brick wall for your mind to say, yeah, that looks like a brick wall. Words are harder, because letters need to mean something, they convey information. So I've got here what it was and what it's become, and you can see in the automatic mode it's a bit better. Some of the words are a bit more readable. Now let's push up again to about 73 and see if that improves it. It's not a lot of difference. See, when you do it that way, probably a little bit better. It's very hard to tell. That's one of the limitations of these softwares. There are software out there, Focus Magic for example, which can make words more readable, but they only work if the blur's in one direction. That's the problem with this. With a lens that's wobbling about left, right and centre, you've got blur going in several directions, and at that point it's very, very difficult to recover. What the Topaz algorithm does is it compares what it can see with what it ought to look like, but words are very hard to do. It's very hard to get lots of examples. If we perhaps go over to the parking sign, maybe that's going to be a little easier for it to fix. It hasn't updated again. This is because it's the beta software, so let's just make it update. Again, the wording is better, no question, and you can read it just. So again, it's limited to what you can do, but this is a very blurred image. What you get with images that are a little less blurred is better. Of course, the real trick is to get your images sharp in camera. There's no substitute for that, but this can make a unusable image just about usable, and if there's a small amount of blur, then it does do considerably well with it. So that's Topaz Sharpen AI. When it comes to sharpening good quality images, well, there's nothing better. When it comes to recovering images that are either blurred or a little out of focus, tests like this one and other ones on my blog, well, they show that it has a very good go at reducing the blur, at sharpening the image. It's not perfect. It can't be perfect. It's trying to do the impossible to make it perfect, but it can rescue an unusable image and turn it into something that you might make some use of. So again, it's a recommended product, particularly for its sharpening with noise removal. Is the best I've ever seen, and it should be the final stage in your workflow.